morning, everyone, and I'd like to call the regular board meeting of Tuesday, June 28th, 2022 to order at 9 a.m. Call to order. Melissa, will you please do the roll?
Okay. Director Bayland?
Here.
Director Boatwright?
Here.
Director Kearns?
Here.
Director Murphy?
Not online yet.
Okay. And Director Ringen?
Here.
Okay, we have 4 present currently.
Okay, thank you. All right. So I was wondering if, David, would you be willing to lead us in the pledge this morning?
Sure.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, so at this time, I'd like to welcome the members of the public who have taken the time to attend this meeting and provide comments on matters related to district business. Any member of the public may address the board related to any matter within the board's jurisdiction. This need not be related to any item on the agenda. However, the board cannot act on an item unless it was noticed on the agenda. Persons speaking during the public comment will be limited to 5 minutes, or depending on the number of persons wishing to speak, it may be reduced to allow all members of the public the opportunity to address the board. So at this time, and I'll start with our audience first, is there any member in our audience that would like to address the board? Okay, seeing none, I'll go to our virtual audience. Is there any member in our virtual audience that would like to address the board?
Sally Rose has her hand up for a comment.
Okay, good morning, Sally, go ahead.
Sorry, it took a while to unmute. Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to address the board. Really appreciate that time that you give the public. I'm here to comment, as usual, on the Phoenix Lake Restoration Project. As you recall, this began in 2004 as a grassroots effort. That's over 18 years ago. The pillars were improvement of water capacity, improvement of water quality, sediment removal, sediment mitigation, wildlife habitat restoration, fire mitigation, public access, and education. In 2012, Horizon Engineering produced a 200-page report which outlined the stewardship of this valuable water resource. It was not a single-step project, it was multiple phases, and it was a long-term plan for the stewardship of the lake. At that time, over 12 legislative bodies and community organizations publicly endorsed the plan. It had a wide audience of interest. The Union Democrats said, quote, "Put TUD in charge. It has the most clout when it comes to getting federal grants earmarked for clear water and environmental improvement." It also said that we should reopen Phoenix Lake to public with trails and recreation areas, which is key to getting federal aid for environmental improvement. That was all 10 years ago. Where did all that support and community energy get us? In 2020, sedimentation was removed, a berm was built, sedimentation ponds were done, dredging was done to a total of 40% of the original goal, and some additional improvements have been made. I spoke to the TUD board exactly a year ago about several recommendations. At that time, the Phoenix Lake project was still on the capital improvement plan, but it could not be funded. I more than understood that the sewage treatment plant and water rights from PG&E were priority items that deserve that attention. I listened to the special board meeting just this month on that capital improvement plan, after which I sent an email to all of the board members as well as some of the engineers and received no response from any of you to date, not even an acknowledgement of receipt. My recommendations are much the same as they were a year ago. And I continue to ask the board to, number one, renew the formal commitment to the Phoenix Lake Restoration Project. Number 2, outline a list of tasks and prioritize them so that there's some direction ahead. Number 3, perhaps reestablish an ad hoc task force to help outline those tasks. Number 4, commit to some type of annual reassessment of the state of that plan and the health of the lake. Number 5, commit to ongoing community education efforts to assist in stewardship of the lake. And number 6, anticipate the permit dates that we are moving closer toward that will require us to start planning and prioritizing some of these tasks very soon. The importance of this issue is not diminished by time. The relevance of the Horizon Report is not diminished by time. The value of the stewardship of Phoenix Lake only grows with time. Surely this worthy project deserves some effort now to plan for these tasks before the permits sundown. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sally. Your comments are appreciated. Is there any other member of the public that wishes to address the board virtually?
Not at this time, no.
President Bailey, Director Murphy has logged in.
I'm sorry.
Director Murphy has logged in.
Okay, thank you. Okay, great. All right, so that will close our public forum and we will move to the consent calendar. Melissa, will you please read the consent calendar?
Okay, item number 1, minutes of the special board meetings of June 6, 2022 and regular board meeting of June 14, 2022. Item number 2, consider adopting a subsequent resolution making findings in support of allowing remote meetings pursuant to AB 361. And item number 3, resolution to approve appropriations limit for fiscal year 2023.
Thank you, Melissa. Is there any board member at this time that wishes to pull one or more of these items before we vote? Director Murphy,
She's not indicating.
Not,
She
okay,
said no.
great. All right, so is there any discussion from the public on this, on the consent calendar? Seeing none, is there any on our Zoom, with our Zoom audience?
Not at the moment, no.
Okay, then I will call for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we accept the consent calendar.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, and I think that's to approve it. Yeah,
Approve it,
accept it.
yeah.
Okay, great. All right, any further discussion? All right, seeing none, then let's just, well, no, we have one on Zoom. Okay, Melissa, will you please call?
Okay, Director Boatright,
Aye.
Director Kearns,
Aye.
Director Murphy,
Aye.
Director Ringen,
Yes.
Director Balin.
Aye,
Okay, motion passes 5-0.
thank you. Okay, so moving on to regular business. Melissa, will you please read the first item on regular business?
Okay, item number 4, Board of Directors to consider adopting a resolution declaring support for the formation of the Tuolumne County chapter of the California Special Districts Association.
Good morning, President Bailey and Directors. Don Perkins, your General Manager for the district. Today, we're joined with Dave Andrus, a former GM of ours and the current GM of Tuolumne Sanitary District. Pete Campa also is pretty much who's the one who's spearheading this effort to form a Tuolumne County chapter of the special district, California Special Districts. His idea here is to organize a group of special districts within the county so that we can grow together with the county and address certain issues that impact the county as a whole. And so Dave Andrews is here. He's gonna give us some information to kind of get us up to speed and then provide any answers to any questions you might have. Dave?
Thank you.
Thank you.
President Balin, members of the board, I'm Dave Andrus. Pete Campa sends his regrets he couldn't attend. He had a conflict here. And as Don mentioned, Pete's sort of been spearheading this organization of this proposed California Special Districts Association for Tuolumne County. On April 13th, we had a meeting, Pete had called a meeting, and we had about 8 attendees from various special districts. At that meeting, it was a mix of both staff and elected board officials. And there seemed to be a strong interest from the 8 attendees to form this chapter of the special districts. And there's multiple numbers of these, probably over 30 in the state right now that are affiliated with CSDA. So really the purpose of this organization is on a more local and regional level, but it would also have some statewide implications as well. But the first is we want to provide public information on the activities and issues facing special districts. Establish a forum for countywide discussion of these issues and educate board members, staff, and various other special districts on the various issues that are facing independent special districts. As you know, we got a wide variety. We have anything from cemetery districts to fire districts to community services district, water and sewer district. So we have a wide variety of activities. A lot of times everybody's sort of focused on what they do in their district. But what we're trying to do is establish a meeting forum that we can bring up issues as they at least give people some notice of what may be coming up in the future. This would help improve communication among the districts, provide more public awareness of what the issues are. There seems to be a strong interest among the fire districts. As you well are aware, they've been sort of twisting in the wind for many years, at least the smaller ones, because the county has their concerns. They're talking about, they've had multiple studies of what fire districts should be doing. Should they be consolidated into one large district? Should there be independent districts? So that's been an ongoing battle with very little resolution. So there seems to be a concern on particularly the fire districts that they want to get more of that information out to the public and try to resolve that issue. The other thing is that we want to, LAFCO has also come up as an issue. They're always a focus, as your board is aware, you have a permanent, or not a permanent member, but a rotating member who is currently on the board. David, you're that representative at this point. And we feel that between my district, we're looking at doing a community services district. We've been in application with LAFCO for over a year and a half, and we don't have our request approved yet, so it's been dragging on for quite a long period of time. As I mentioned, the fire districts have concerns about their boundaries and their ability to function under their current size. So there's those issues. I know Groveland also has some annexation issues and some expansion issues that they're discussing. So there's a lot going on at the LAFCO level. We feel that there needs to be more communication among the districts to understand why these activities are taking place and sort of give everybody a heads up that these things are coming down the road. There will be some small costs associated with this formation. The thought would be there'd be quarterly meetings, at least to start. There may be some special meetings if there's some issue that comes up. But each agency does have to provide some type of insurance for their participants. We anticipate that the larger agencies would maybe host the meetings on a quarterly basis so that some of the smaller agencies that may not have facilities to hold a meeting, would not be required to do that. We're thinking that they would sponsor, maybe a lunch or a speaker or some other activities during those meetings. So that sort of in a nutshell is it. We need at least half the districts to positively adopt a resolution for this to take place. So, we're here today. My districts have approved it. I know I think there's probably about 6 or 7 have already approved it. So we're very interested in doing it. And I know everybody, we got to go to another meeting. I know that's always the groan from staff or from, your board members. They're running around all the time in meetings. But I think, once we get the board formed and everything gets going, if we don't need to meet as frequently, that's fine too. But I think we want to keep this communication going because there's a lot of issues. For even example, your annex or your proposal to with PG&E, that'd be another good forum to bring those issues up as those issues tend to unfold. So So again, that's in a nutshell what's being proposed, and before you is a resolution for adoption and participation, and again, I'll answer any questions if you have them. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Dave. Right. Are there any questions from the board? Yes, Jeff.
Yeah, Dave, how many special districts do you think there are that would be eligible to join here in Columbia County?
Well, there's a total of 16 right now, so there's sort of an odd group of the cemetery districts. They have they're appointed by the board of supervisors. They're elected or appointed body. So they're the only sort of different setup. So there's 5 of them. There's 5 fire districts, and then there's a host of sanitaries, CSDs, parks and recreation districts is what make up the difference.
And you said the fire department or the fire districts are the ones that are the most eager to join?
Yeah, based on the meeting, that was, that's my interpretation, because they feel they've been pushed around a lot and don't have as much clout dealing with the county. And, obviously the county fire district takes up most of the area. Groveland contracts with the California Department of Forestry as well. Some of the other districts are independent, and they're finding it very difficult to survive based on the size of their district and the lack of, they're relying on property tax revenue. So there seems to be a strong interest from them to have this group put together so that we can have a little more clout and input onto what's going on at the county level.
Improve their representation. Yeah.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
So Dave, will this hopefully correct the way the calls are doled out and paid for by the fire departments as compared to what CAL FIRE does for the county?
Well, that'll be an issue that would have to be brought before this group, and then obviously, discussions at the county level of what would go on. But, those are, I think, some of the other issues that they're facing right now.
So that's
A lot of those small districts are spending more time outside their service area than they are inside, and they're not getting reimbursed for that. So that's been a real tough issue for them because they just don't have the staffing.
right. So this would possibly pave the way to get that correct.
Correct. Yeah, at least we give it a more focused group that's backing it and maybe a little louder voice than these individual districts that are, trying to fight for their survival, essentially.
Great.
Okay, in reading, and I agree, it sounds like that this is going to provide a forum for those issues to come up and then a mechanism then to formally address some of those inequities. Yeah, we found that out in Columbia when, sometimes you have overlap of coverage and sometimes you have gaps, and that really pointed out a big gap in there. So my question is dues. Okay, many of us are already members of CSDA, and I do see the advantage of forming a localized CSDA group. But when I was reading the recitals, it said something about membership dues. Oh, will there be membership dues?
Well, at this point, they're saying no. My feeling down the road, we probably want some. You're going to have to pay for your representative to be there, and once the district or the agency forms as a nonprofit, then those issues of dues then can be discussed. I think a small amount would probably be appropriate because you're going to have communications that are going to go, printing costs, those types of things. But I don't think it to be too large. None of the money will go to the CSDA at the state level. Any money collected would be spent here locally. There's no cost to the local chapter to pay to the state CSDA. But anything to run, obviously your administrative and overhead might require some dues. But I don't see it being very high. It certainly would be like a LAFCO bill, that we get every year. Based on their budget. We're not talking about staffing. This will be done by the managers in the various agencies and coordination and things like that, the staff. So you'll have some in-house costs when staff is working on something for the group. But beyond that, you know, it might be somewhere $100, maybe $200 a year or something, maybe have enough to, you know, send out publications and things like that.
And then do you envision the general managers, at what level is that level of participation?
It's open to either staff or elected officials, so it's up to the local board to appoint. The way it works is that you would appoint a primary person and an alternate. Each agency would have one vote. Once the organization's formed, then there'll be a vote to put various board members as the board of directors on, and your agency could request somebody to be on as a staff or a elected official to attend and be on that board.
Okay, just looking, you know, just kind of get an idea of additional time for RGM or additional staff time, because although I also know that the more logos that you have on a letter, the better that is. I mean, it elevates the attention that it gets. So, you know, certainly we do that in mountain counties. So there are benefits. You know, they just kind of get an idea of the burden on the agency.
Right, and I think, you know, the people here know each other. It's, you know, we're a small enough community, we know each other. So we know certain staff it's got other priorities. They can pitch to some other people within the county to pick up the slack during that time period. So you know, I don't see it as something that, you know, your staff's going to be totally overburdened with. If they don't have time, they can punt to somebody else, and we could take up a meeting, or you know, Groveland or somebody else could get involved in those particular issues while various staff, you know, spend their time focused on their priorities.
Any further questions? Yes, go ahead, David.
Question for you, President Balin. Mountain counties, that is made up of water and wastewater districts, or are there multiple types of districts?
It is made up, we have 64 members, and our executive members are counties, you know, irrigation districts, water districts such as us. And we have a 9-member board, and those are made up of 5 supervisors and 4 these are all electeds, and then 4 elected water districts. So there are sewer folks represented too, but we do not have a 64-member board. We represent, we try to pick our board from the whole breadth or length of mountain counties. We represent all of our interests, predominantly water rights. So that's how we operate.
Okay, so it's primarily water special districts?
Yes, and supervisors and counties. I believe our county is member too.
Question, how would adding the voice of water, wastewater special district add clout to a fire district's issue?
Well, I think the main issue there would be that safety in numbers, or the fact is that this would be a separate body. You know, obviously, the individual fire districts are going to represent their own point of view, but in a small agency that doesn't have a whole lot of weight, at least this would give a weight of the entire special district community within Tuolumne County. So I think it'd be easier for them to get, let's say, a county supervisor to show up to a meeting and give a presentation on what's going on something of importance to special districts, or LAFCO staff or members to show up and provide information regarding what's going on there. So I think that's where the importance is that this one is we have a larger group that's more unified. Obviously, you know, you as a big agency have more clout than some of the smaller agencies, so you bring a lot of weight to that particular issue. I think the other thing we have to understand, there's a real tight alliance between the special districts. You know, the county has planning and zoning rights, you know, that's their responsibility, but you as an agency have water and sewer, which is a key component of providing those services. So you have to sort of work hand in hand, that you have to have the water and the sewer capacity to help the county complete their planning organization. And the same thing for the other special districts, you know, in terms of fire protection and all the other services that these districts provide. So I think it's very important that we have better communication because, you know, quite frankly, I think, you know, COVID had something to do with it, but, you know, we really haven't had good communication among the various local agencies and also jumping up to the region as well, because we probably would be asking, you know, elected officials, assemblymen, state senators to come to some of these meetings, or at least have their staff come to these meetings and keep us up to breast on what's going on sort of in a more regional basis as well. So I think it's a good forum for that, and it's not going to cost a lot because, you know, most of this all going to be done in-house and in local community. You don't have to travel or send people out of the area to go to some meetings and stuff like that. So I think it's important in that respect as well.
We have Director Murphy with her hand up for a comment.
Oh, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk for a moment about what the special districts are. So I looked it up online, and there's 27 special districts within Tuolumne County. And they, as you said, water districts and fire and cemetery, but there's also the Parks and Rec. There's also the community on aging. Where did it go? So there is quite a variety of entities that fire and water certainly cross over very nicely. There's the Tuolumne County Economic Development Authority, Fire, Cemetery, Central Sierra Planning Council, Central Sierra Economic Development District, water districts, cemetery districts, Tuolumne County Resource Conservation District, Tuolumne Park and Rec District, Tuolumne Joint Powers Authority, more sanitary, more fire, Tuolumne County Transportation Council, more fire, Area 12 Agency on Aging, Groveland Community Service District, Twain Harte Community Service District, and Tuolumne Utilities District. So just in thinking about the breadth of which the special districts would be interested on is pretty wide on this. And so just I understand that having Tuolumne County special districts, I guess it's committee. Is that what we're calling it, or what would it be called? But that it would be another opportunity for folks to band together to try to get things done in the county. But I just do want to point out that it is a really broad group of people that would have a lot of, the cemetery district would have a different thought than the planning, than the recreation, than the fire, than the, you know, so I think it, and the agency on aging, just to be aware of the broad breadth of entities that would be involved in this group. So I just wanted to point that out. And it is 27. It's not, I think you said 14 or 17 or something.
Let me clarify that. This committee or this association would be set up of the independent special districts. There are more districts, but those are what we're called dependent districts. They're usually approved by the county board of supervisors typically, or there may be members of the county board appoint independent members to these various commissions. But so we're only talking a subset of all the special districts. There's about 16 special districts that are independent as defined by LAFCO. So those are the ones that would be involved in this. So area on aging and stuff would not be involved in this. They're a separate entity.
Yeah, thank you for making that a public thing. Most of us here are aware of that, as we're an independent. The other thing is that just like Twain Harte they had a few independent special districts, and they formed a community services district. And so they took, by talking to each other, realized that they could consolidate and be more effective, cost effective. And so I see what you're saying in terms of Tuolumne putting together those little individual independents into a community services district and consolidating those resources and those tasks. And so I see this as a good, again, platform for you guys to look at where you can consolidate, and then CSDA can support that as long as it's consistent with the larger CSDA mission. So yeah, that's really good. Yeah. Any other, yes?
Then, Dawn, do you see any benefit to the district? And, you know, obviously, when there's fire districts are gonna have fire district issues. Is there any benefits to TUD, you know, to weigh in or lend your clout and support to something? Obviously, you wanna, know about it. And how does that, is there some correlation? Is there some, I'm having a hard time making a correlation in a, chapter of special districts that are so diverse that our issues are different, whereas all the fire districts joining a fire district chapter and all of the water, wastewater, irrigation, type special districts being a separate chapter. How is that?
Yeah, I think I follow your line of questioning and thinking, and I guess kind of the way I see it, it is somewhat of a multi-way street. In other words, TUD may have an issue that, which we oftentimes do, and we need would like to have some support of the counties, of the city. Anybody, like Director Bailey was talking about, if you can put a logo on a letter and send it off to PG&E or to the governor or whoever, it just shows that there's more unity. So to me, that makes sense in that way. Now, differently, but I think, just as important, we can lend our support, TUD can lend our support if it's in alignment with good thinking for like the Columbia Fire District, right? They've been in application 2 for their boundaries for well over a year and just not getting anywhere. And I guess they feel like they're just tiny. Mark Friera was one of the fire chiefs or captains that attended that meeting back in April. And so, the hope is the smaller districts will be better represented as a whole, Tuolumne County, because, we need to take care of Tuolumne County, right? There's a lot of issues out there, but Tuolumne County is not shy of issues, and I just think any opportunity we can to band together in ways like this and help promote and further the cause of other districts and their needs and support. So I don't know if I exactly answered your question, but.
Well, I'm still having a hard time, looking at it from the standpoint of a wastewater or water customer or a raw water customer paying your time or staff time to learn and, bring back information on other district issues. Like I said, if they were all apples, hey, let's all get together, it's one voice, we have all of our common issues. Whereas when we join a chapter that is so diverse, we're having to spend water and wastewater dollars towards learning of other issues. Do we support that? Is where I'm trying to understand how this is going forward.
I think I understand your question. Spending money appropriately, right? Taking my time away to go spend it on fire districts' boundaries. I get that. I don't think there's an awful lot of time that's going to be here. Meeting quarterly at most, right? At this point.
And I can see, okay, quarterly at first, but next year it may be bi-monthly, and maybe in the future it's a monthly meeting. And certainly, you know, as a chapter, not only having a strong voice, but, you know, what is it gonna do for the, you know, community overall? I mean, are we going to introduce studies, consultants, you know, down the road, which increase the full chapter being supported into that? So, you know, just trying to envision how this thing will grow from the seed that is being planted and making sure that we're, you know, benefiting our ratepayers based on what, you know, what services they're paying for.
Yeah, your points are really well taken. And certainly, we, you know, we want our general manager to make sure that, you know, his time is really balanced and he's not chasing meetings and things like that. I had come across something that maybe I think might be helpful, that I sent to Dawn, which was the Marshall Fire that took out 1,000 homes in a WUI, and the whole incident command, what worked, what didn't, what we can improve on, all the actors that were involved in the whole community, the benefit of communication and cross communication. It was mind-boggling. You think, well, what do large animal vets have to do with us? You know, well, it's all part of getting them on a school piece of green and putting your livestock out there. And so all the benefit of communication channels, and I totally agree, we cannot just keep sending GMs, you know, are all over the place. But in terms of, you know, it was once recommended by a supervisor that TUD may one day be a community services district, and we would have recreation and parks and whatnot. So, you know, these little smaller ones are starting to coalesce, and we don't know where we're going to be also in 20 years. So, I think overall, if we're really prudent about this, and just go ahead and monitor this and see how this is working, especially legislation. If they can come through on stuff where we really need all the logos we can get on something to push forward, you know, I see it as has more benefit to it than we're definitely needs to be monitored. Do you have any comments?
Yeah, I'm just gonna also say that I think this is a good forum for, you know, support for grant applications. You know, there's always need to have as many agencies as you can support your grants. I think really is a time between the water providers and the fire protection districts, because essentially your pipe sizes, your ability to deliver water is critical to those fire districts in terms of protecting their communities. So they would be supporting infrastructure improvements in those communities and stuff. So I think there is a close tie-in. I think there needs to be more education, particularly to the LAFCO members who are on the county board of supervisors, on the city, because they're not as interested in what goes on in the special districts as they are in their own jurisdictions. And at least that's what I found when we discussed our community service district formation. There was lots of concern about whether our little district was going to take money away from the county and that type of stuff. So they're protecting their turf. And I think this is just another area that we could have a more uniform voice in addressing some of those issues and supporting them. And it does make a difference on grant applications of who's in support of it and getting various organizations behind your project, because the state doesn't want controversial projects. They want projects that people support in their communities. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, Director Murphy with her hand up for a comment.
Go ahead, Director Murphy.
All right, and so this is just what President Balin brought up is a worry that I have, which is one worry that I have is that this board tends, I feel like, overreach what we should be focusing on, and a concern that Director Balin just brought up, that thing of Tuolumne Utilities District may become a recreational district. I just want to double check that right here, and when we're talking about these special districts, right? Is the Tuolumne Recreation part of, like, TUD has no business doing recreation. We have no business doing that. We are water and sewer. That is what we provide. That is our mission. There is already Tuolumne County Parks and Rec, and that is their job to do the Parks and Rec part. Just making sure that they are part of this collaborative endeavor as well, because on the list of 27, they show up as one of the special districts. But I can't tell from this if they are an independent special district that would be included in this or not. So I'd like a answer to that question. And yeah, I
No,
think
the answer,
that,
I'll just answer, the answer is no. They're not part of it. They're a county department, so they are not considered a special district, an independent special district.
yeah, so from my perspective, it feels that that there is a need for a county-wide broader communication network. I'm not sure this is it. Because I think that I think that we all need to stay in our lanes, right? And we need to cooperatively cooperatively engage with each other. But I do really believe fire should still be doing fire. Parks and Rec should still be doing Parks and Rec. TUD should be providing the utilities. Each of these things need to stay in the lane that they were designed to provide services in, and then collectively we need to sit at a table together. But I think from my perspective, if we're talking Parks and Rec needs to be there. And if we're talking, if we're just talking fire, water, and sewer, this seems like it would be a reasonable group of folks. I don't really understand the cemetery having there's like 5 or 6 cemetery districts listed. I don't understand. I think there'd be a benefit to having a different group that was broader and involved more of the county services within that, because although we are a special district, we are also a main provider of services in the county. So the comment that Director Balin made concerns me, that this may be a tool that's used for a TUD to be acting outside of their lane. And I'm concerned about that. We have enough to focus on. And Sally Rhodes brought up a lot of stuff that we need to be focusing on within our district. There's just there's a lot we need to be doing. And I think collaborating with fire is important, but if it's going to involve recreation, it better include Tuolumne County Parks and Rec.
Thank you, Director Murphy. I was referring to community services districts in that context. Director Ringen.
I think we're getting off in the weeds, and I would like to call the question.
Okay, is there a second?
We do have Jesse with his hand up for a comment.
Okay.
What is the discussion being ended for?
You don't, according to our, well, first of all, I'd like to have Jesse explain when we call for a question, when that is an issue. So why don't we have Jesse go ahead, and then we can answer your question. Go ahead, Jesse.
Yes, thank you, President Balin. I think what I'll do is I'll address 2 questions. The first is when a board member believes that the matter has been discussed and is ready to call for a vote, that board member simply moves to call the question, to end debate, and move for approval or disapproval of whatever is before the board. So if there is a board member who feels as though that enough discussion has ensued on a certain item, that board member can move to call the question, end debate, and call for a vote. So that's the first question. Okay, I see somebody's hand up. I don't know who that is.
Director Boatright.
Okay.
Does this have something to do with the note that President Balin pass to Director Ringen?
I have no
There
knowledge of
was
no.
something written on the back of that page that was passed over there that was not. So I'm asking, I'm pretty sure passing notes is not permitted in a public meeting between directors.
Oh, it happens all the time.
And yeah, that's the first time I've seen it in this meeting. So I'm asking why the discussion stopped. It did deviate,
I
but
told you exactly why I wanted it to stop.
so President Balin, you're able to pass a note to Director Bringen and have him call for a stop of the questions. Is that what I just seen in this meeting?
I was gonna do that one way or another.
Nope. Is that what I just seen? You passed a note to Director Ringen and Director Ringen immediately called for a stop of the questions. Okay, so I've got some major issues with that. As far as, this is going on too long, it's not going my way, the discussion.
But, I want to tell you something. When I first got on this board, there were sidebar conversations constantly, okay, constantly.
Did you call them out?
No, I didn't call them out.
Why?
It's just rude behavior. I'm not going to do it.
Hey,
Listen, David.
I'm asking you in a fair discussion of questions on this board in a public meeting, when you pass a note to another director and that director immediately, Director Reagan, I'm sorry for calling you out on this, but if you're acting as a lieutenant for the president, following orders to get something in a certain direction, that's what this looks like.
That's not what happened at all.
President Balin, would you like to make public whatever the note said on the back of your sheet?
Let me ask Jesse.
Yes, there's no, any notes or any comments made between the board members. Those are going to be public comments during a public meeting. So there's no confidentiality associated with any notes or any comments made between board members during a public meeting.
So my note was to call for the question.
All right. Just wanted that to be made public, that is the way that occurred.
And realistically, there's nothing wrong with a board member asking another board member to call a question. There's nothing prohibited by the Brown Act, certainly doesn't prohibit that. But it does happen in other meetings at which that I have attended, where the board member simply asks one board member to make a motion to proceed. Sometimes presidents don't like to make motions on a matter that they put on the agenda, and they ask for a motion to be made by another board member. That happens. There's nothing wrong or untoward about that. So I just want to make clear that there was nothing unlawful here occurring. That's all. And then.
Oh, and I would need a second. We have to have a second. So if I didn't get a second, the discussion continues. This is part of our Rosenberg Rules of Order.
Well, then,
We have had
why wouldn't you
conversations.
just directly ask Director Ringen to call for the question then? I'm sorry, when you hide it on a sheet, you pass it off.
I'm not your mind reader, and I'm not gonna do what you might think is the least rude of this whole procedure. This is a legal procedure to call for the question if a board member feels that there is enough discussion on an issue, okay? Then it has to have a second. So if there is no second, the discussion continues. I ask as the presider of this meeting, call for the question, I have to turn to the other board members to see if there is a second. That's my role, okay?
We have Director Murphy with her hand up for a comment.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm very familiar with parliamentary procedure, and this is within what you are allowed to do within parliamentary procedure. But the reason that this exists within parliamentary procedure is if the discussion is going in circles. And so if new information is coming in and new thoughts and new discussion is happening, generally you continue to have that discussion. That's the whole point of having these rules. Other things, there have been a lot of things that have been weird about, just since we're talking about the parliamentary procedure part now, that have been weird about it. The roll call votes happen in different order each time. That's not part of parliamentary procedure, and seems to be, I don't know why it's done in different orders, but I would prefer that we actually followed parliamentary procedure on that and kept with the same roll call each time. I think that that utilizing, it's everything that you're doing is legal. It's fine. But it's not an effective meeting if you cut discussion before discussion has been finished and then rush to a vote that you already, what it shows me is that you already know you have 3 votes for something. And this has happened where a motion has been put forward at the beginning of a meeting before a discussion has even been happened, because there's already a quorum of 3 that are going to put that through. And I feel that that's probably the same that's going to happen today, that there's already a known 3 that are voting for this. And so, but the reason for having public meetings is so that the other directors also get a voice and get heard by the public, and that any concerns that they have are aired in the public forum. And that's the whole reason for public meetings. And that's the transparency is what our public has asked for and has elected us into these positions for, is to have these discussions in public. And when we cut the discussion short, that's a disservice to the public, even though it is within parliamentary procedure allowable. So that's my 2 cents.
Jesse has his hand up for a comment.
Excuse me?
Jesse.
Okay, please go ahead, Jesse.
Yes, thank you, President Balin. Just a couple of comments here. As pointed out by Director Murphy, calling the question is, a very legitimate exercise of power under parliamentary procedure. There doesn't need to be a minimum set of amount of discussion. That's not set. So if the majority of the board believes that, or really just one individual board member believes a matter has been discussed enough, there is no set limit, that board member can call the question at any time. And there's just no minimum amount of discussion. The one question I would like to answer goes back to a comment previously made by Director Murphy about recreation. And I just wanted to point out, I realize that we have moved on from this subject, but this district, the Tuolumne Utilities District, as a county water district, does have recreational authorities under the water code. So it can operate recreational facilities if it so chooses. If it so chooses, is a policy decision for the board to make. So far, the board has not exercised that policy decision to exercise those authorities, but the district can do it. And those are my comments. Thank you.
Jesse, can you know?
I'm not just talking. Jesse, can I have a clarification?
I'm talking, Director Murphy. I have the floor, Director Murphy. Jesse, could you please address the decision to mix up the roll call, please? Because I know that is legal.
Can I first ask my question that's about what Jesse was talking about?
No, you may not.
Yes, thank you, Director President Balin. Yes, as far as the roll votes, yeah, there's also no set requirement on how roll call votes are made. I often, when I'm in other public meetings, I will often call the roll, and I automatically mix up the arrangement of the board members voting on a particular vote, just to just to make sure that one person doesn't feel like I'm calling on them the first time. Always, they may need additional time. And so I always rotate who I call on. And so there's no prohibition on that under the Brown Act or even the parliamentary procedure. You know, you can rotate the vote, the calling of names for a vote. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Director Murphy, did you hear that?
Of course I did. I'm in the meeting, but I would like to ask my questions.
Go
to
ahead,
Jesse,
please. Go ahead.
Yeah, so Jesse, can we get back to what you said before? Can you just restate what you said before so I can ask my questions regarding that?
Which subject, Director Murphy?
Recreation and the water code.
Yes. It's Water Code Section 31130. A district may use any water or land under its control for recreational purposes and in connection therewith may construct, maintain, and operate any works or facilities appropriate or ancillary to such recreational use.
And that's in the state water code. And what did you say it was?
31130.
And so I understand that that is a guiding state document. But when I look at what our mission is for our county and what TUD was created, which is separate from the water code, right? That's what I was referring to. Am I missing something here, or am I seeing that what I'm trying to pull it up online right now? That what we were created for was water and sewer. We were not created for recreation in everything that I can find online. Is that accurate for our mission statement?
Yeah, I don't know what mission statement document you're referring to, but what I can tell you in the hierarchy of authority, statutory law is going to preside over any mission statement regarding the formation of this district. When the county made the decision, when this county voted and made the decision to form a county water district under the water code, this county water district was formed with all of the authorities provided by the water code. And so you start with statutory law, and then you can go to policy and mission statements and things of that sort. But the statutory law is always going to be principle.
Okay, our mission, as is on our website, is the mission of Tuolumne Utilities District is to provide responsible water and wastewater services for our customers with great customer service in a socially, financially, and environmentally responsible manner at a fair value. And because we have, as do all counties and cities, have a recreation branch of within our local government, I would like to see us leave that to them and focus on what our mission was and what we were created for, which was, according to the website and our mission on the website, which is responsible water and wastewater services for our customers. And I am very concerned as a full utility payer, and I think that I am the only one on the board that is reliant on only public water and sewer. I think everybody else has other ways to get water or other ways to deal with their sewer. And the water and sewer are expensive, and they're big entities to focus on. It's really large. And so back to it's why I think having larger groups that we are part of is a good idea, right? But my worry is that if all of the entities in the county that are, and Director Balin brought this up, the large vet thing and fairgrounds and stuff. So those things are all on a bigger level than this thing that we're talking about. So the thing that we are talking about is this independent special districts committee group that would be meeting. And it feels to me that we would be better served with a larger entity rather than just the independent special districts. That having county rec on this and having fire, water, sewer, county rec, planning, things like that would make more sense to me than to specifically be independent special districts group that's coming together. I totally believe in collaboration. I totally believe in that in this county we need more collaboration between entities, but I would like to see some of the other entities at the table too, which would be planning and rec. I think are two things that would be very useful for us to be collaborating with, so that we are not that we're able to focus on water and sewer as our primary objective. So that's what I'm getting at with all of this, and with the discussions and with my questions. Thank you for the time. I appreciate it.
Director Kearns.
Yeah, Dave, so would TUD be the largest special district involved in this?
Yes, you're the largest district here in the county, both in budget, staffing, and in geographical sphere.
And I would assume that whether TUD is a member or not, this will go forward, and I'm sure it will get legs and become its own chapter, correct?
Well, it requires a majority of the special districts to participate in it for it to be a valid chapter for the Special Districts Association. So if we don't get enough individual members, then it would fail. It's similar to the vote that we had on a LAFCO representative. If there wasn't a majority supporting it, then it would have failed. But we had a majority support that, and that's why there's 2 special district representatives on LAFCO.
Okay, so if we approved it, for a hypothetical question, if we approve this today, and you don't get 9 special districts to agree with this, then it would be unsuccessful.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Well, my question then is, why wouldn't TUD be a part of this? We're the largest special district in Tuolumne County. I believe that PG&E will come back to the table with us at some point. We're going to need some collaboration with the other special districts, as well as the county and the city and everyone else that has a buy-in in Tuolumne County. So that's my question. Why would we want to be a part of this?
Yeah, I agree that having community buy-in for PG&E negotiations, large asset acquisitions like that. But with the way that negotiations went, and that's been heartburn with a lot of our constituents. There's so little information that was available about the negotiations because it's closed between TUD and PG&E. Like I said, as a water or wastewater or raw water customer, I would have to question, how many meetings and how much staff time. As far as facilities use, some facilities are already here, and other community groups use our facilities such as water. But it's a cost and an expenditure to a person who's paying for a specific service. And I draw it back to the same thing, whereas I wouldn't have a issue joining Groveland, Community Services District, based in the water, wastewater. Twainhart has their water, JSD, and certainly where groups have a more common thing, I don't want to be the largest special district, in an association where the association is primarily geared towards dealing with issues there. Concerns also for, is this a, committee to spearhead against our local level? Is that, where this is going to. Certainly, I'm sympathetic towards, and I have no idea why time, for different applications or all of the, I'm still learning about that. So there's a little bit of difference. I agree that, at some levels, communications in between, interagency, cooperation for, and fire district, and they need a hydrant that specialized to their system. We have it in the warehouse, why would we not? And then they replace it, back to us. As far as supply chain issues, communications, it's just, will there be enough benefit to TUD rate customers through this association?
So here's, go ahead, Director Murphy, I saw your hand up. And
I actually had lowered my hand, but I'll go ahead. The other thing is being the largest entity in special districts thing. I can see the advantage of us joining for helping other special districts get a little bit more attention on the legislative side of things, and that group, the larger group, going together on that. But again, I would like to see the larger group be larger than just independent special districts. I would like to see rec and planning in on that, because I think that is that would be a more useful thing to the county and a more useful thing in going after grants and things like that. I think it would be more useful to have a larger entity than just this. And so I would like us to pursue that instead of this.
go ahead, Director.
Dave, along the line of Director Murphy's comments there, Trumbull County Department of Recs, I mean, they can't be part of CSD, can they?
No, not
Just because they
legally.
cannot.
You have to be a member of CSDA to be a member of this chapter, the local chapter. And however, there's nothing would preclude the elected board, or actually they're elected by the members, so there'll be an elected 5-member board to invite county to every meeting, to invite the county to discuss specific topics at meetings, to inform the group as to what the status of various things are. So I see it as a good inroad into better communication with those agencies, because then, as representatives of the special districts, they could request that these people, the LAFCO board, come. And quite frankly, some of the focus is on LAFCO, because those are important issues for these special districts. I mean, this agency was a county agency at one time, so they went through the process to become a special district. And that was fairly recent, 1990. So I see it very beneficial for better communication to find out, we run a recreation district in Tuolumne City. So obviously if TUD or some other county, they do provide recreation there too, but we have some overlapping jurisdiction there. We maintain parks, and the county maintains the pool. So there's trade-offs there. We have contracts with them. So those are the kind of things that can be fostered through these relationships. But I feel that it's important that, particularly as we talk about LAFCO, that the LAFCO board didn't have a good understanding of what our community service district proposal was, in my opinion. They were, at least certain members were more concerned about protecting their turf than they were about the mandate for LAFCO to help consolidate and reduce the number of special districts. That's one of the goals of LAFCO. So we feel that by having another organization that might help at least our members, but we could invite LAFCO to discuss issues, bring them to a meeting and ask them, why is it taking so long to process something? And then that board can then make a recommendation to the board of supervisors to clear up that loggerhead, versus the one individual agency that might have their application, who really doesn't want to go out and make staff mad about what's going on, have a broader organization to help push some of the reforms that, in my opinion, need to be made, at least in some of the activities taken on at the county level. The other thing, I know recreation is an issue here. You are aware as I, there's not a whole lot of recreation going on in this county from the county level. And in fact, I think issues with, maybe they need some help getting grants and things like that. So there's nothing that would preclude you from forming a subcommittee or something to discuss those issues and what's beneficial for the whole county and what the future may hold there. But, I'm not advocating any position, but those are certain topics that if they are an interest in special districts, we can bring them to the table and find out what's going on in those areas.
Thank you. That was very helpful.
Okay, is there any member of the public that wishes to comment?
Not at the moment, no.
Okay, then seeing none, then there is a motion on the table to call for the vote, which means to end the discussion and make a motion. So is there a second?
Second for the in discussion.
Mm-hmm.
I'll second that.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. Is there everybody in favor? What, Melissa, you want to call that for? We are calling an end to the discussion. It's been moved and seconded. So now we do a roll call vote because Director Murphy is coming in remote.
Okay. Director Balin,
Aye.
Director Boatright,
Aye.
Director Kearns,
Aye.
Director Murphy,
She stated aye, she is muted.
okay, Director Ringen,
Yes.
okay, motion.
Okay. Thank you. So on that, then, is there a motion on this item?
I'll make a motion. Oh, go there. Okay. I make a motion that TUD adopt a resolution declaring support for the formation of the Tuolumne County chapter of the California Special Districts Association. Hope I got that right.
You did.
I'll
Okay.
second.
There's a second. Director Kearns seconds that. Any further discussion? Any member of the public wish to comment?
Not at the moment, no.
Okay, I'll bring it back then for a vote.
Okay, Director Balin,
Aye.
Director Boatright,
No.
Director Kearns,
Aye.
Director Murphy,
Abstain.
Director Ringen.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. 3-1.
Okay. And thank you, Dave.
Thank you, I appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Dave.
Take care.
Okay, Melissa, would you please read the next item?
Okay, item number 5, consider executing a construction contract with Always Paving Incorporated for the Ridgewood Intertie Paving Project.
All right, good morning. Give me a moment here. I'd like to share screen. I think it's going to be a little easier for us to see the work scope that's involved here. Just one moment. All right. It's a little lag here. Well, and I'll start by saying this particular item is a multi-year, multi-phase improvement project. It is represented in your current fiscal year capital budget. It's also in next year's capital budget as well. It involves bringing water from our upper basin water system down through Ridgewood Estates with the intent to consolidate Phoenix Lake Park and Scenic View. So to bring water from the upper zone, if you will, all the way down into Scenic View, Scenic Brook. It will rectify some issues that we have with aging infrastructure, particularly some tanks and treatment facilities. The first phase of the project is currently nearing completion. It's from our Scenic View water treatment plant all the way up Phoenix Lake Road and then over just off to the edge here to Resort Road in the Phoenix Lake Park area. It's about 3,000 feet. It's being constructed by TUD Crews If you've driven down Phoenix Lake Road recently, you've seen that there is temporary cold mix or cut back asphalt in the trench line. And that's very typical for us to use what we call temporary asphalt, just in order for us to get through construction until such time that we can go put out to bid a formal permanent asphalt paving project. Consistent with our purchasing policy is that we have a $150,000 limit. So any projects above that need to be formally bid, and then they need to be brought before the board for award. And that's what we're here to consider today. We went ahead and bid this project, and in your agenda package, you'll see we received 4 bids. But before we get into the detail there, I want to point out we did something a little special, a little unconventional. We collaborated with the county on this. Not that that is special. We collaborate with the county all the time. But we identified an opportunity here to have an option in our bid. We call it an additive alternate, to extend the paving for the project beyond what we were obligated to do through our encroachment permit. The encroachment permit issued by the county for work in public roads, county maintained roads, said that we needed to follow the new dig once policy. And Dave Andrus is very aware of this because a lot of the special districts, including ourselves, pushed back a little bit when the county had proposed this new policy because it was going to impose costs on us. We were able to get some concessions, but the new policy states that if the road has a pavement condition index, a PCI above 50, meaning it's still not a great road, but it's above 50, we would need to repave an entire traffic lane. And that is the case on this project from, if you can see my cursor down here, it's very small, I need to make it larger, but from the intersection of Meadowbrook Drive and Phoenix Lake Road all the way up to Midland Drive, that section of Phoenix Lake Road had a PCI of 58. So this contract that we put out involves a complete overlay of the upward or eastbound, northeastbound traffic lane. It's a grind and overlay. We bid with an option to continue that up to Resort Road so that we could provide the county the additional cost. It's a win-win for both agencies if we're able to secure a very cost-effective bid for this. As we know, mobilization and demobilization, administrative costs for bidding, economy of scale, this isn't something the county would be able to undertake on their own. And so we did that, and the incremental cost increase was $3,250 to add 755 feet of full width travel lane paving. And we presented that to the county, and they very graciously accepted that offer because they're never going to get a better deal than that, quite honestly. We will continue to look for opportunities to partner with the county on paving. We all know the state of the roads, and whenever we're going to be out there doing paving, if we can yield a little more value and maximize benefits to the traveling public, we'll try to do that at no cost to the district's ratepayers. So that's what we've done in this case, and we've collected, as I said, 4 bids. Always Paving was our low bid. What we're asking the board to consider is award of contract to Always Paving in the amount, the total amount is $211,390. The $3,250, the county will reimburse TUD for that additional work scope. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Director Ringen.
Eric, the only thing that can, well, 2 things concern me about this. And I'm sure you folks have been very careful about it, so my concerns are probably, not. But first of all, is a vast spread of these. My God. And then tied in with that is, this is not my field of expertise, paving, but I have never heard of Always Paving. Have you folks checked into the quality of their work?
Great question. We share the same concern whenever we see a bid spread like this. We did have 300,000 in the CIP for this, and so we've come in way below. And as you noted, they are substantially below the next highest bidder. We have not worked with Always Paving. We have checked into them. They check out. Now, the county, we also asked them if they had any experience with Always Paving. And they also have not, but they have heard of them. And they didn't elaborate beyond that. We did look into and call Always Paving. We confirmed that their bid they would hold and that they understood the work scope clearly. We always do that when our bid is substantially lower because sometimes the contractor misses something. And although their bid is binding, they submit a bid bond, which obligates, them essentially to move forward with the work. But we never like to strong arm people. So we did call, we spoke with them. And then we have seen that they've done representative work in many areas around the Bay Area. So they're actually over in the Bay Area. I do not know why they're coming up into this area. Sometimes it can be as simple as an owner has family up here or has a second home up here, or I'm only speculating, but we at this point have no reason to believe that they can't perform the work.
Well, I think it's great that you beat the original amount that was set aside by so much. That's really a good one. So anyway, that's all for me.
Okay, thank you, Director Ringen. Yes, Director Boatright.
I have a question. Eric, it's kind of going back to full width paving and the grading score that you mentioned. Now, if the score is below 50, are we just paving the trench or are we paving even bigger?
Just the trench.
Just the trench. What if it goes higher? If the roadway is at a much better grade than 50, is there another trigger that you suddenly have to pave both lanes?
Just one trigger, it's 50. 50 is the cutoff. If it's above 50, it's a full lane. If it's below 50, it's just your trench.
Okay.
There's no requirement to pave both lanes except if there are multiple cross trenches crossing the other opposing lane of traffic within 300 feet, then I think it's 300 feet or 150. It's one of those. Then you're obligated to overlay in between those two cross trenches. So if we had a real high density project, which we don't have a lot of density in this community, but where we were putting new service laterals in, say every 300 feet, we may need to pave in between those trenches.
All right, and then there's a moratorium as well too that has to be complied to as far as if it's a newly paved road, there's so many years before.
The county has implemented imposed a moratorium on newly paved roads. They haven't exercised that. I think that there's a little room in there, but we certainly think whenever we're doing a new project, such as Curtis Creek, that it makes sense to have those service lines done with the project so that we aren't coming, if there's any chance somebody's going to come apply for service within a couple years of the paving project.
Thank you.
Director Murphy has her hand up for a comment.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah, Eric, I think you've done a great job of answering a lot of the questions that I had. But the other question that I have is, I know that the prices have changed due to supply chain and things like that. If we were to go back a year or two, would this bid that's coming in by this company, would that have been a reasonable bid? I'm just wondering, same thing as you and everyone, how they're able to do it at this lower cost. Is it? I know that asphalt per square foot went up. I think you guys had said it went up by at least 50% last year. So I'm just kind of wondering if this is what we would have expected maybe 2 years ago before, or 3 years ago, this sort of $200,000 bid versus $300,000 bid, or if this is even in that situation would have been a strangely low bid?
I am not a great student of asphalt paving costs because it's an ancillary activity for us here at the district. But to try to answer your question, I do think this would have been more in line with, it wouldn't have been low a couple of years ago. I think it probably would have been in range. I don't know if there's a lag for this bidder, but if you analyze line item by line item in this bid, you can see that contractors, some of them put a lot of money for mobilization and demobilization. And there's some other drivers there in the cost. So it's just sometimes the strategy that these bidders employ. Sometimes they have their own traffic control, these contractors, and some don't. So they may realize some savings on that line item. But I don't think it would have been low a couple of years ago.
Okay. And then the other thing was just to follow up on what you had just said, regarding the one dig policy thing that the county has put in, just that we have done our due diligence to ensure that we won't have a need to dig into this in the near future, that we've taken care of those, everything that we can predict. I know that there's always unpredictable stuff, but everything that is within this section has all the digging that we know needs to be done has been done.
Yes, we're replacing the service laterals with this project because we're replacing an existing water main. So it isn't like we're running through new territory where there could be people that require service or request service after the fact. We believe we've done all the disturbance to the roadway at this point. It's ready for pavement.
Awesome. Thank you for your due diligence. I appreciate it.
Okay, if there's no questions, no additional questions from the board, is there any public comment on this item?
Not at the moment, no.
Thank you. Then, yes, Director Raymond?
I'd like to make a motion.
Okay, thank you.
My motion would be for TUD staff to execute a construction contract with Always Paving Incorporated for the Ridgewood Intertie paving project at the contract stated amount.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'd second that.
Thank you. Director Boatright, is there any further discussion? Seeing none? Melissa, will you call for the vote?
Okay, Director Ringen,
Yes.
Director Murphy,
Yes.
Director Kearns,
Aye.
Director Boatright.
Aye.
Director Balin.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. Okay, so on to item 6. Melissa, please read the item.
Okay. Consideration of a master meter agreement for temporary and intermittent potable water service by and between the Tuolumne Utilities District and the Miwok Village Mutual Water Company.
Well, the board's very aware of our ongoing efforts to consolidate facilities, treatment and storage facilities. The previous agenda item actually addressed that as well. With the collapse of our Zone 3 water storage tank and the current deteriorated condition of our White Fir tank, staff has identified an opportunity to consolidate 2 tanks into one. This is project location, I should have started off, is up in the Miwok Sugar Pine area, and more specifically off of White Fir Drive. And Highway 108 is off to the left here, Sugar Pine Road, White Fir Drive here. We currently have our White Fir tank here. It's in, the board's seen pictures of this. It's in the backyards of several homes. It's not in land owned in fee by the district. It is an easement, and there is not sufficient space for us to construct a new tank at that site while maintaining the current one. So the board in December authorized purchase of a ½ acre parcel from Sierra Pacific Industries. That's shown right here. And since that time, we have started the design process, the environmental process with the consulting and done some geotechnical investigation on the site. But one of the first real steps, and I should mention that Elizabeth Merchant Wells, our assistant engineer, this is her project, so she's been working very diligently on this. Matt Nolte, your distribution superintendent, has also been heavily involved. So Elizabeth can answer any of the technical questions, but one of the first tasks was really to determine, do we need to accommodate 2 tanks on this site? In order to properly maintain a tank, you really need to be able to drain it and recode it occasionally. That may be on a 15 to 20 year cycle. Well, you can't drain a tank unless you have another tank that could serve your customers, or you have an interconnection to another water source. And that was the very first task for us to determine. And we looked across the landscape here and recognized that Miwok Village Mutual Water Company was adjacent to our service area boundary, and they were engaged. We had a meeting with them, spoke with them, confirmed they had enough storage capacity and that their tanks were at the appropriate elevation to deliver service pressure to our customers. And we floated the idea of an interconnection pipeline, which is shown here on Black Oak Drive. It's approximately 575 feet. It is shown as a bidirectional water meter and interconnection because, yes, they could serve our system, but we could also supplement their system. So it's, again, another win-win situation here. What it means for the district is we could potentially avoid a $1 million future expense to build a second tank. Not to mention the additional grading and some of the piping conflicts that we would have had to deal with in our design now to accommodate a second tank in the future. This has been reviewed by Jesse, and it has also gone through review at Miwok Village Mutual Water Company. We believe that this could be constructed by TUD crews at an expense of probably in the neighborhood of $70,000. That doesn't need to happen right away. We really need this before we do maintenance on the tank that we have yet to build. We're thinking ahead. We must think, 20 years in advance, because otherwise we'll be stuck with a tank we can't maintain. A tank you can't maintain is going to deteriorate to the point where now we're going to have to look for more land again. And we want to break that cycle in this particular case. So this could be constructed by our crews this year, next year. It would be nice to have it in service the sooner rather than later, just in case there's an emergency for some reason and they need water from us or vice versa. I'm happy to answer any questions, or Elizabeth can, about the project.
Director Ringel.
So I want to compliment staff on this line of thinking. I mean, that's really a big cost savings, and putting in that bi-directional line, I think, is also set up in the proper way to where, I don't ever see a time when the crews won't have plenty to work, but if there was sort of a slow time, that would be a perfect time to put that in. So anyway, good job, good job.
Director Murphy has her hand up for a comment.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I just, I'm thinking back to touring those sites and also the discussions that we had, I don't know, almost a year ago about all of that. And I was thinking that the reason that we were getting that larger site was to be able to accommodate the 2 tanks. And then also I'm looking at this and wondering why we would dismantle the white fur tank and not just use that as the thing that we have to use every once in a while for the system. I get that I've been up there. The house is like literally, I don't know, it's maybe 10 feet away from that tank. I understand that that if that tank failed, or if we needed to release water onto the landscape or something, that would not be possible from that tank. I understand that because I've been up there walking there. But I thought that the reason we were getting that larger chunk was to do the 2 tank system there. And I thought that we had talked about at some point in time utilizing the white fur tank as the temporary while we're working on the new tank. Can you just clarify all that for me, please?
Sure, I will try. Yes, we will be utilizing the white fur tank until such time that the new tank is completely in service and operable. The reason we acquired the half-acre site was kind of a multitude of reasons. One, that was the size of the parcel available from SPI. They weren't interested in us dividing that parcel and paying for a lot line adjustment or a split, and then having them own a tenth of an acre or a third of an acre or something. The other reason is, quite honestly, when your staff identify land, we also try to think broadly about what the possibilities are, not knowing what the grading will look like, what the exact footprint of the tank will look like, what sort of conflicts we may have with power lines, which Elizabeth knows there are, and not knowing, quite honestly, if we could ink a deal with the Miwok Village Mutual Water Company. So we planned for 2. We represented that to the board that 2 tanks was a possibility. We identified this as a preferred alternative and a savings of $1 million approximately, future dollars, and feel like this is a better alternative than to continue to plan for 2 tanks on that site.
With that, just, I really appreciate you looking towards the future. I think that the interconnecting different water districts, I think that's a great idea. I appreciate you guys looking into all of these different ways of doing things. The way that this is mapped out on here seems like the placement of things limits us to this kind of floor plan, right? When you guys are looking at this, if we needed to put a second tank in there in the future, are you designing this that would be possible?
No, that's really, that's part of why the decision process in design is so important. That was the first thing that Elizabeth and I and Matt discussed was, are we going to provide for the opportunity to have 2 tanks? It changes the cost of the project. It changes the grading. It requires retaining walls. It requires some expensive upfront cost to keep that alternative available to us. In a perfect world, if there were no cost implications, yes, we would absolutely orient the tank, situate the tank so that we could build a second. But because it involves some cost now, we don't think, we feel very confident that water will be available from Miwok. They have 2 tanks, by the way, so they do have a way to maintain their storage. It's us that really needs this connection more than they do, although it will have mutual benefit. But no, we really are going to be setting a course for 1 storage tank on that site.
And we're dismantling the other storage tank the white fur tank. And then that property is being retained by TUD or not?
That is up to further discussion or decision by the board. We would dismantle that tank. You asked why would we keep it for occasional use. The real reason is in a water system, there is really not such a thing as keeping a storage tank for occasional use. You would need to maintain it in a state of readiness, and that cost would really require us to replace that tank entirely. It's in such poor condition. It isn't something that we could reblast and recoat and get another 15, 20 years out of. It's really a liability, to be honest with you. There's not a site, there's not access control there, there's not security there. It's in people's backyards. If it were to fail, it would have pretty significant property damage. Our inclination as staff has been to consolidate and reduce our O&M burdens, and this is one way to do it, was dismantle that tank, establish this interconnection. When we need to do maintenance on this new tank in 15 years, we have an agreement and a way to get that water from Miwok during winter time for a period of 2-3 months. we recode our new tank. Likewise, if they need to do something in their system, we can serve their needs, probably, 50, 60 gallons a minute, but that's a big deal for them.
And so on the maintenance of things that are just sitting there unused, what happens with this? So we put this pipe in and it has no water in it until 15 years from now?
So that pipe will be, but pipes do, yes, but pipes don't age like above ground infrastructure ages. That pipe may have water in it, but it will be flushed before it will be put into service. And so we've made provisions there for flushing, and Matt and Elizabeth and I have discussed that it would need to be freshened up before it was put into service, but that's not unique in our district. We have many dead-end water mains where you may have a seasonal residents at the end, and they only show up a month or so out of the year, and you have a dead-end line. So the pipeline itself and the water meter, I don't have concern about those aging, but the water quality will be poor. We'll need to flush that before it actually gets delivered to any of the customers.
And on that, I just, to me, it's a little baffling to put it in 15 years before, because you keep saying 15 to 20 years, before we need it. What's the reason for laying that pipe and making that connection now? Does Miwok have a current need for possible TUD water?
The reason would be, let's say Miwok has, they have no standby generators right now. They would like to get those. So I'm giving you a reason why we would have it for their benefit, but they rely on wells for part of the year, and then they rely on TUD water for the other part. If during a time in which we have a ditch outage or they're on wells and they have power failure, we could supplement water and keep their lower zone customers in water. Likewise, if we have an issue in our system, maybe a water main break, or we have a pump failure, there's going to be a pump station also, it's shown in the plan. And let's say we need to change out our pumps. Normally we design our facilities with redundancy, but let's just say there's a problem there. Their water pressure will be able to serve our hydro zone customers. So it provides operational flexibility to both sides, and that would be the reason we may want to have this installed earlier rather than later. Like I said, pipelines aren't going to age. I mean, a PVC pipeline having an 80 to 100-year life is really pretty expected at this point.
How do we currently, because you said they are on TUD water part of the time, how do we currently get water to them?
When I say TUD water, it's raw water. Ditch water, they rely on ditch water that they treat for part of the year, and then they rely on wells for the other part of the year.
And so then this, with this pipeline, it would just directly connect the treated water systems to the treated water systems, right? And they don't need to treat, and this isn't going into their treatment center. This is going to direct usage.
Exactly.
Okay. Cool. Thank you. I appreciate all the clarification. Thank you very much.
Director Boatwright.
Thank you for being thorough in this. A couple of questions to go a little bit further on. The treatment of water in Miwok versus the treatment of water in our system, are they going to be compatible? As far as if they're on well, is that going to have an effect with any residual anti-corrosion inhibitors in our system and cause a reaction?
So our treatments are very, very similar, if not alike. The water source can be different. It can be well or it can be surface water. They switch back and forth depending on the time of year. And yeah, at times, it's known that an alternate source of water can kind of disrupt the distribution system from time to time. But in this particular case, if you don't remember, we already have a master meter agreement with Miwok at an upper part in the old griddle tank area. So they are already providing that zone of customers with their water, and we're not experiencing any water quality challenges.
Okay, does that complicate our water quality analysis report as far as source water and all that?
It actually, in a minute way, kind of simplifies it. So if you're talking about the new, the existing master.
Well, the existing master that we have would be a great example. How does that affect our
Just
water quality analysis?
So it's so minute, but it actually reduces the number of samples that we have to do on our end.
Okay, so this one's anticipated to have a negligible effect as well.
Or almost none, because it's not a permanent intertide, it's an emergency intertide.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Okay, Corey, is there any questions from the audience?
Not at the moment, ma'am.
Okay. Then let's, I'm entertaining a motion for this.
Madam President, I do have one other question. Are we looking to build this year, or are we planning to put it in the budget for next year?
So, great question. It could be done either or. It wasn't clear and I didn't indicate. I believe we'd like to see how Elizabeth's budget comes back for the tank. It's currently in this upcoming fiscal year at like 1.3 million. I'm hopeful that we'll be able to take the remaining money in that and build it in the next year. But if the money is not there, the board would have to budget that for a later year.
All right, thank you.
Anybody want to make a motion?
I'll do it.
Okay.
I would like to make a motion that the board of directors by motion approve the execution of master meter agreement for the temporary and intermittent potable water service by and between Tuolumne Utilities District and the Mewick Village Mutual Water Company.
Thank you. Is there
I'll
a second?
second it.
Okay, Director Reagan seconds it. Any further discussion? Okay, Melissa, please call the vote.
Okay, Director Boatright,
Aye.
Director Kern,
Aye.
Director Murphy.
Aye.
Director Reagan,
Yes.
Director Balin.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. Thank you, Elizabeth. Appreciate it. Okay, Melissa, would you please, Missy Granta's staff office? Okay, thank you.
Okay, item number 7, operational update on the water and wastewater departments for May of 2022.
Okay, good morning. John Perkins, your general manager. I'm going to sub in for Eric Hall today. I'll first, point out, this is always kind of a thing in my head, July is just a couple days away from now, and we're talking about May. So a lot has transpired between this report and today. So on page 2, this question came up, so I thought it'd be important to just kind of remind you. It's in this ops report regularly now, and we'll talk about the new Maloney's elevation, and with respect to where the current elevation is and where our pump station is. So as you can see, currently the elevation is at 916 feet, and our pumps are always at 870 feet. So we have about 5 feet of elevation of our pumps. However,
John, you said 870 is our pumps.
870.
Thank you.
916 and 870, yeah. However, there's a couple of things, right? Maloney's is very low, it's early in the summer, it's only gonna draw down farther. I don't know if there's some prediction on how low it's gonna go. I'm sure somebody knows that, I don't know the answer. So I don't know if our pumps will get exposed or not. But what I do know is currently, right now, we have a beautiful family of osprey that decided to nest in our power lines. So we are not able to turn the pumps on today, we needed to. Birds are just trying to spread their wings. Again, I'm trying to be brief. On page 4, water supply, always a fun question, not fun. It's always an interesting question of when did end spill happen, and apparently it ended on June 16th this year. And as also on this page, due to the governor's executive order N7-22, we have implemented our level 2 of our water shortage contingency plan. On page 5, I thought this was really interesting. I always look at this, these stats, you know, the surface water production was down considerably from last year. I'm only guessing, and as I recall, last May was pretty warm versus this year it was more normal temperature. So that's my only, if I'm guessing, you know, Trevor, if Trevor's listening, you want to chime in, I don't know the answer to it. Just a thought, just interesting to me. Skipping around to page 8. Distribution CIP projects, again, you know, what Eric and Elizabeth are working on at Matt Nolte is just another brilliant example of great minds collaborating with all of the district departments, with the engineering department, and in this case with MEWA, to come up with the best laid plan, not just knee jerk, go do something. Here's a problem, go fix it. Let's think about it. So this, similarly here, this one, this Cuesta Heights storage and distribution improvements in progress. Well, it's been in progress for, don't say, take this wrong, 7 years. And there's a really good reason why. Because, again, we could have just, we'll go to a long story, but this project is nearing completion. We're almost done. We've already consolidated the gopher tank, which was in poor condition. It failed prematurely, by the way, so it just didn't fall down on the ground. The Saratoga tank has been consolidated. It's in very, very poor condition. And what's next, and really close, is the 420 tank. It gives 420 tank. So that's another case where, you know, the engineering department and the distribution department really thought about this project long term, and we ended up with a really good project here. So reduce the number of our tanks that we have to maintain. We have a beautiful, you know, probably a tank that's going to last 100 years at the Shaw's Flat. So I'm really, really proud of this project. Scenic view distribution improvements, another phase 1. This is where they replaced several thousand feet main line on Upper Hillview that was just, you know, nagging our maintenance department. So that should be taken care of for dozens of years now. And as we just talked about, the Ridgewood transmission line, phase 1 from Sawmill to Meadowbrook, which, you know, in time will consolidate, in real short time, consolidate a whole treatment plant in a port tank. And in due time, a few years from now, we'll consolidate the scenic treatment plant. So good projects there. I highlighted this and then I jinxed myself. Again, remember this is May, it's almost July, but the leaks were down quite a bit, you know, for the construction and maintenance department. But the moment I say that, there's a leak popping up, I'm sure. Sorry, Doug. Also on page 10, you can see our construction crews. Again, our construction crews are working on the rehabilitation of the Paris Ferry lift station, which is, as Director Boatwright knows, that's a critical, important lift station to this district. It receives a lot of flow. It's very important. And so our crews are working hard to get that all new everything by the time it's all said and done. Finally, on the wastewater regional area, it's important, you know, it's the curious time of year about how Quartz is doing, and you can see that today it's at about 45.8. This is as of May, 45.8 feet. We're a foot and a half above where we were this time last year. So an additional 45 bigger feet from this time last year. And then lastly, having to forget, you know, again, we have some folks that have done some additional training and certification. So we're proud to announce that Curtis Wainwright obtained his grade 1 distribution certification, and Tyler Hawkins passes distribution grade 4 certification. So we're very proud of their accomplishments. It helps them, but it really, really helps the district. Hope we don't have too many more questions. I knew you would.
I too picked out that small amount of leaks, and I think actually staff and the crew should take credit for that, because I think it's because of all this new pipe that's been getting put in the ground, and we don't have that constant call out. So you ought to be patting yourselves on the back. The one thing that does concern me, and that is over the years I've visited the New Maloney's pump station a few times, and I don't know what you want to call it, that I had the luck or the misfortune was there when they were underwater on my first tour of that plant, whatever you want to call it. And then a year later or so, I was back out, and now they were high and dry because we're deep into the drought, and New Maloney's was way, way down. And then I went back out probably almost a year later or so, and they were buried in silt. I guess where I'm going with this is, do we, after that huge rain last October, I think it was, do we have any way to know if those pumps are in water or in mud?
It's a great question, and I don't know the answer. But we do have this new underwater, whatever they call it, drone, that goes underwater. Trevor and others use them for checking out tanks. I imagine we can maybe see if we can go down that far.
I think it'd be a darn good idea after that monsoon we had. I was absolutely amazed at how much silt was covering that whole area. I mean, it changed the whole river bottom. And and I don't know how that drone's gonna do in current, but I think it would be a really good idea, because especially with us moving towards, with the Chicken Ranch ban, to get an agreement to pull the water out of New Maloney's, we certainly wouldn't want to fire it up and suck mud.
Right.
All right, that's it for me.
Thank you. Any other board comments?
Director Murphy has her hand up for a comment.
Go ahead.
That was a great segue from what Director Ringen was saying and what my question is. And that has to do with the agreement with Chicken Ranch. They're right. Am I understanding correctly that they'll be putting in a new pump system that draws at a lower, deeper down in the lake at a slightly different location? Is that, I've got a couple of questions, but that's my first question.
And I don't know exactly what they have planned. I haven't seen any of their real plans on, but I do know they want to provide their own pump stations someplace. Yes.
Yeah, I thought I had read it in notes that I'd been provided by TUD, but maybe it was just in the paper about that said that it was at a different location, and the different location was because it was going to be a deeper and more effective pump. So I guess my question on this is, so my understanding is the only time we've really used the New Maloney's reservoir water is when we're do our ditch outage and utilize that water. Is that correct?
You're at least 90% correct. All of my time here, and I've certainly since the mid-90s, every year during the ditch outage, the week-long ditch outage, we turn the pump stations on for 3 to 4 days. We pump about 3 million gallons, and then that's it. I can imagine a time or two, like during the drought in 2015 and 14 and 15 or so, we turned it on to take advantage of the water to fill up our reservoir, new larger reservoir, rather than using surface water from lines, because it was so yeah, for emergencies or planned ditch outages.
Yeah, so that was a piece that I didn't understand, and because this is our reports on this stuff, right? So I feel like it's the appropriate place to ask. If I need to have just a private conversation with this, that's fine too. But as we're looking at the future, right? So what I understood of as the agreement with Chicken Ranch, so that they would be able to put their own pump station in and utilize that water that that Tuolumne County has, and it's not really water rights to it. I can't remember what the real terminology was, but that
contract.
Okay. So when that sort of gets transferred over to Chicken Ranch, do we still get to utilize New Maloney's during ditch outages, or is all of that transferred over to Chicken Ranch and then we have to negotiate with Chicken Ranch kind of
No,
out of
no, right, I'll try to be brief here. So separately, Chicken Ranch has done a water needs assessment for a block of water. Similarly, TUD has also. So we have our block of water, they have their block of water. They can either use our pump station, their pump station, a combination of all of that. Those details are yet to be worked out.
Okay, but we will retain our pump station and we will retain the ability to utilize water from New Maloney's for our ditch outages and possibly during severe drought?
Yes. Yes.
Definitely during severe drought or possibly during severe drought?
Well, depending on the elevation of the lake, right? It's currently the water's above the pumps. In 2015 or 16, it got below the pump, so.
Yeah, good point. And I think there's a reasonable chance by the time we have our ditch outage in October that it would be possibly below the pumps. But I think that what Director Ringen brought up of the checking out what the sedimentation level is on that and making sure that we have that's free and clear for pumping. The good thing is we didn't have heavy rains this year. We didn't have we didn't have runoff that that moves a lot of sediment. Things came a little bit more gently this year, so that should be on our side. So if we've looked at it in the last couple of years, we should be this year shouldn't have silted it up too bad. But I think since we do have those tools and we have staff people that can run those tools, that it would be a good idea to take a look in there if what we have is appropriate to put in New Maloney's. And I heard Director Ringen say the same thing about being depth and currents and things like that, just to make sure we don't lose that. but it seems like it would be a good idea to take a look at that before we need it. But thank you for answering those questions. I appreciate it.
Welcome.
Before we go further, it's 11 o'clock and we have a closed session coming up, and I just want to remind the board that we're going to need to negotiate our time at noon. I also have a hard stop at 1, so if we can keep our comments brief, that would be appreciated. And Director Ringen, you had a comment.
Yeah, I was gonna just say real quickly, Don, that when the pumps got turned on during the ditch outage, that was to exercise the pumps. That's what the staff and GM would say. And also wanted to point out that we did not have any right to the water. And that's what we're getting close to now.
Right.
So that's it.
Thank you. Any other, yes, Director, and then Director Curtis.
Then flip the point.
I just had a question on the change out meters. Would it be safe to assume that out of the 43 change out meters, the vast majority would be replacement with radio, with the remote reads, and that's why they're being replaced? We're not failing 42 meters a month, right?
I don't think I have a great answer for you, but I haven't talked with Matt with this for months. Mm-hmm. But if the conversation will go like this, there's a split, right? Some of our new meters, first gen meters, you'd say, their first auto read meters are starting to fail, right? So they get replaced with auto read. Some of the other meters are also, the older meters are being replaced with new auto read meters.
Yeah, I think I can chime in, Jeff. Every meter that gets changed or needs to be changed goes through utility billing. And 2 factors, one, like Don said, we're always trying to upgrade ones where we can, but we have existing automated read meters that go bad and need to be replaced. So the majority of them, unfortunately, I think are replacements rather than upgrades.
Okay.
The other thing, talking to Matt, we've run into is there's a real supply problem right now. Matt's guys, I know this is May and stuff, but Matt was very aggressively upgrading, and we ran to the point where we ran out of meters. And the meter supply company is doing everything they can to get us more meters, but until that time, Matt had to kind of slow down on his meter replacement.
Thank you. That's all we know.
Any further discussion? I think this is it. Go ahead, David.
Question back on Maloney's. When does the silt inundation actually occur on our pump station? Is it when the lake is lowering or when the lake goes to refill?
Well, my recollection is something along these lines. The first year the pumps were exposed, there wasn't silt there because I didn't walk down there, but people walked down there and took pictures. I have pictures of that. The next year, as the river rose and solidified some of that silt up gradient, it drifted down onto our pump station, right? And so the next year, anticipating this was going to be the case, we needed to go down there and do what we could. We took our construction crews down there, and miraculously, the river cleaned most of that sediment. I'm talking about larger than this room size of sludge. So that's my recollection.
So if we actually draw water, or the water, Maloney's level is drawn below our pumps, it'd be a little bit more anticipated that next year we have the potential for silt inundation.
Yeah. We'll go take a look at this camera, hopefully we'll give you an idea.
Question on the sanitary sewer overflows. Are we out from under the consent decree with the lawyers for Glen Water?
Yes, short answer is yes, we are. If you ask me when we got out from it, it's a little tricky. I think it ended a year ago in June, but the last report had to end up in January, so.
Yeah, have we gotten the final review of the final report?
They haven't? No, right?
No, and as is typical, we send it to them and they may come back with a question, but a lot of times there's just not even an acknowledgement. We just we have in our file that we sent them the report as required on such and such date. We have heard nothing.
Is there any ongoing monetary payouts or, review of report?
No, we fulfilled all the obligations under the consent decree.
Thank you. That's it.
Director Murphy has her hand up for a comment.
Go ahead, Director Murphy.
Yeah, at the beginning of the report, you have the pictures of the Phoenix Lake project and installing the flashboards and the refilling. I haven't been out there for a little bit, and I know that we've all received inquiries and in the beginning of the public forum today as well. Can you just real quick educate me on where we are on the Phoenix Lake, and also where we are on any thoughts of continuing on that?
Well, that's two separate topics. The reason for the pictures here is to just kind of remind you, we did some rehab and maintenance on the dam itself and the berm. We also installed the flashboards here and did it a little late due to the work being done on the dam. Fortunately for us, we were able to fill this reservoir before the end of the spill. So that's that's the story behind the Phoenix Lake dam maintenance repairs.
And if I can just clarify what Don said, that was not part of the Phoenix Lake Preservation and Restoration Plan. This activity that you see pictures on was a project required by the Division of Safety of Dams related to dam safety. It had nothing to do with the plan that Ms. Sally Rhodes was mentioning at the very beginning of the public comment.
Nothing to do, because it's related to the same, it's what holds the water back. And I saw that before the project. So good job doing the project, because I can see why the Division of Safety of Dams was requiring it. Because I had walked on that 2 years ago and taken a look at it. So now the lake is refilled. It is refilled at the, not maximum level, but it's at the expected spring.
Normal operating level. Normal operating level.
Okay. So there's been a lot of questions, I know, with this board, a year or two ago, talking about expanded capacity of that with continuing, and I think it was talking about the boot area and then fire, as we're moving into fire season, the issues with fire clearance. And I know that there's special considerations with the marsh area there, because it is protected as wetlands in California. I know there's a lot of bits and pieces to this, but just is staff looking at any further changes to the Phoenix Lake area, or is that sort of not on anybody's radar at the moment?
So I'll preface, earlier when Sally Rose was talking about something was put in paper, handing over to TUD because of all the help, the abilities to get this done, that person, whoever said was most likely correct, because it hadn't been done to this level ever. So, and I'm really super proud of the work we did do. We did fall shy of meeting all of the wants and needs of that original Horizon plan. Moving forward, what I really, really want from the board is clear direction on what you want to commit staff time, energy, and money to with moving forward. That's for a later discussion.
Right. Okay. So right now, then hearing that, would it be accurate to say that staff time is not being spent on the Phoenix Lake? You haven't gotten direction for that.
Other than looking for other grant opportunities, right? We need about $10 million or so, and we're looking for grant opportunities to fund that. And our finances, as everybody's well aware of, is tight, and so it's not like we can go out and throw in $1 million or so and to get anything meaningful done, because our finances are tight. So we need literally $10 million to go finish this thing up.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. My question is just a clarification of: are we spending staff time on this, or not really at this moment?
We are still, as Don said, actively looking at grant opportunities. Many of them don't fit because of the sheer size of the project scope. Furthermore, engineering staff is still spending time trying to close out this project. We still have permits that require annual monitoring, quarterly monitoring. There's certified paper. I mean, there is a lot of work done that the board wouldn't be aware of because it doesn't show up in any of our budgets. It's just staff time spent trying to close out the project, monitor for tree growth, monitor for erosion and sediment control. There's a significant amount of work still being undertaken.
Okay. And then on that, I know that there were some permits that had permits that we were looking at keeping active in order to make it that if we found the grant money that we would still be able to move forward on that project. Is that, I haven't heard much on that in the last year or so. I'm wondering if we are indeed, there was something about asking for extensions on different things to make sure that if we were able to find the money, that there would be the possibility of moving forward without having to redo. I think they were the environmental assessments and things.
Yeah, I think we need to seriously consider in next year. I think we're good for this year.
Okay.
We need to consider next year reaching out as necessary to request extension. It's more compelling when we have a project that's funded, but we will still undertake that effort if it's needed. Some of the permits, like the big one being the Army Corps permit, it isn't going to expire anytime soon. That's the one that's most concerning. We're okay there, but the Water Board, 401, water quality certification, and some of the others, we would want to request an extension.
Okay, very good. But we're still within the time frame of everything, and there's nothing pressing at this moment that would limit us.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that.
Any member of the public wish to comment?
Not at the moment.
Okay, well, this is an informational item only, so I think we can move on to the next item. Lucy, would you please read item number 8?
Item number 8, Sonora Regional Wastewater Treatment Plant Progress Report.
Okay, I'll be brief. I did hear President Balin said, keep it brief, so we will. It's just your monthly update on our ongoing Sonora Regional Wastewater Treatment Plant project. We're about 25%, I think it's 22.7 or something percent done in budget, probably closer to 25% at this point. So a quarter of the way. You've seen this map before. I'll try to zoom in a little bit. What's notable now is that there's a green check mark, meaning we've actually completed an aspect to the project, whereas everything that you see with the red star is still in progress. That red or that green check mark is the emergency storage basin. If you drive down the highway and you look over, you'll see when it was in construction, it was being lined, and now it is full of water because we've taken, in the background, you can see pond 2. We've taken all the water out of pond 2 or are in the process and put that into this emergency storage basin, as well as rediverted all the plant effluent out of the secondary clarifiers into this basin. And this basin will serve as our operational storage for the next, probably the duration of the project. And so that's a notable improvement there. We have our south process station as number 4. There's probably been 10 discrete concrete pours for that. And each concrete pour requires the excavation to be, inspected, then the formwork, then the rebar, all the piping and the conduit penetrations. This is just no small feat in terms of logistics. It's very detail driven. Then we got a schedule for the concrete and the inspector to come out, and the concrete finishers and the concrete trucks, and the concrete pumpers. And so if each concrete pour, maybe one wall. And so they've probably, like I said, done 10. They're getting close to finishing that part of the project as well. And other than that, I think it's all in your agenda package. We can answer any questions if there are any, but I want to show you a couple photos here. So this is pond 2. This is the emergency storage basin. It was with the liner. And like I said, this flow has been pumped into here, so we're drawing this down. TUD crews will remove any sludge, and then the contractor will move in and excavate for the aeration basins here. And another perspective on that. It's an under drain system because, as Director Boatwright knows, there's groundwater out there. So we have an under drain system, and we have drain rock on this side because all the water was percolating up through this side. This is the liner installation and an aerial of the liner installation and the rebar for the chlorine contact and filter. I think that sums it up.
Thank you, Eric.
One quick comment, it'll be quick, because I know Director Boatwright is, very interested in these things, and he'd want to know that are the operators taking the opportunity at intervals to inspect, to go visually see what's being built, so they have an understanding, because once it's all constructed, you can't look under the ground, but yes, all the operators are taking a tour at least once a week to go inspect and have a visual of what's going on underneath.
Thank you.
I'm sure there's a rather large photo album somewhere.
I want to thank whoever's putting out the drone photos, sending those out. I think they came via all you guys and Jennifer, really enjoying the drone photos. So just letting you know that you do have at least one board member that clicks on that and takes a look at it.
Thank you. I'll let Patty know. You guys all that.
Any other comments from the board? Okay, I think this is informational only. That's correct. Yeah, great. Thank you. Thank Jennifer also. All right, so this concludes this portion of our meeting, and I will move it then to staff reports.
Again, trying to be sensitive of time, I'll be brief. I've been very, very busy, but I just got back last week from CSDA conference, General Managers Leadership Summit in San Diego. It was great. As you know, it's the second one I've attended one a year ago. It was awesome. This was equally as awesome. So got the partner, network with other general managers, both from Northern California and Southern California. It's really cool to compare notes. Thank you.
Thanks, Don. Any other staff wish to comment right now?
Yeah, I'll be brief. Don alluded earlier, Thursday's our fiscal year end, which is a really big deal for us. So we got closings, month end, quarter end, year end, a whole lot going on, a lot of moving pieces in that, but that's it.
Great.
I have a short report. I was going to share it last time, and I know we got real busy on that one as well, but I am happy to report on our experience modifications for both our workers' comp and our liability. So what that means is basically what's the frequency and severity of our claims, both on the workers' comp side and on the liability side. So in both of those policies for the next fiscal year, our experience modification has gone down, which is a good thing. In workers' comp, it went down from 0.85 to 0.83, and in liability from 0.97 to 0.82, which is considerable. Now, we had a big event this year, so our liability experience mod most likely will increase again next year with the tank. But what that means is our full premium, if you took the full premium, let's say it's $100,000, what we would pay would be based on our experience modification. So for workers' comp, that would be 0.83 or 83% of that full premium. So it's really getting a discount the lower our EMOD is. So, and then we just got an email today saying our workers' comp class code rates are not changing for the next fiscal year, so that's a good thing. But we're still awaiting our liability rates because that policy year starts October 1st. They did let us know that we should anticipate about a 15% increase on that. So while the rates are increasing on liability, also our experience mod went down by 15%. So that should stay roughly stagnant for the next fiscal year from Aqua JPIA. That concludes my report. I figured when she was here.
Good.
All right, that concludes my report.
Thank you. Okay.
We do have,
Yes,
sorry.
Dr. Murphy.
I would just, from the GM, I would love to hear a little bit more about the take homes you got from going to the conference this year that you are applying to being the GM of TUD.
Yeah, so really, one of the most important breakout sessions I had was with a couple of special district, special council member, I guess they're attorneys. And it was how to best manage board meetings, how board meetings should be managed. You know, what are the roles of the GM? What are the roles of the council members? What are the roles of the board member to help facilitate effective board meetings? That's probably the most important breakout session I attended. I also attended a breakout session on conflict resolution, which I didn't really identify too much with that breakout session. So, and things of that nature. There was a couple of great keynote speakers that were very inspirational. I'm forgetting both of their names right now, but one of them was a gal who's a retired special narcotics agent, and how she breaking the code of trust, right? And her whole gig was, how do you gain the trust of criminals who you're trying to arrest, right? So she's infiltrated their little circle and gained their trust just to get them arrested. So it was really interesting along those lines.
Very good, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And we'll turn it back to the board. Is there anything the board would like to report on? Go ahead, please.
Okay.
Mhm.
Should we include what we didn't on the last meeting or no?
Yes. Mhm.
Okay. This should have been on the last board meeting, but we ran out of time. 526, meeting about budget items with the rest of the board. 6, 7, 10, water committee meeting as a stone. 6, 8, 10, finance committee meeting as a stone. And then for this board meeting on 6/15, attended the T. Stan Irwin Water Advisory Committee meeting, and I won't get into it for time's sake, but it was basically around Groveland Community Services presenting their projects that they want put into the plan. 6, 22, 23, and 24 attended an outstanding Mountain Counties Water Resource Association Caldwell Fire Tour, and man, oh man, is that informative. I learned a lot. That's it.
Well, thanks, Ron. Okay, Director Boatwright, anything to add?
No reports at this time.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll forego it for now.
Oh, okay. Well, before I call for a short recess, I too attended the June 22nd to 24th. Our tour was called California United Water Conference. And we had representatives from Southern California that came. And we had representatives from the Bay Area that came to, these are participants. We had 2 buses. We had numerous stops. And our goal was to take a look at the fires along the I forget which corridor it was, 80 or 50, something, approaching the Caldor fire. The tour was focused on the Caldor fire. We had speakers from Sierra Nevada Conservancy to Mark Lester, who you guys have probably all worked with at SBI. And then we had an outstanding presenter, a young individual from Google that actually came from the Bay Area that talked about how they are using transitioning their facilities to all recycled water. And that was extremely, wow, you just don't know what the Bay Area is doing. So these partnerships and networks, they also said that they are very, very interested in looking for projects as the private sector there. So, you may see, why would Google be, what does that have to do with anything? We're so far apart or whatever, but no, there was just amazing. It's one water. That's the way Mountain County's philosophy is. We had a keynote speaker, which was just a total coup, and that's Wade Crowfoot. Many of you know he's the governor's appointee for the natural resources. And he also reinforced the message of integrated resource management. You can't just separate it out and just put blinders on. It's just really one California. And he also talked about the direction of the state, which is, obviously the big 3 are fire, drought, and water. I mean, that's just huge. So he also talked about the 30 by 2030, which is working with tribes and all of our partners in helping to conserve the biodiversity of California, at least 30% of it by 2030. So it's relevant to us whether we like it or not, and so and relevant to the whole state. So anyway, it was incredibly beneficial. We also learned some interesting things, and I'm just going to really quickly. We had a claims adjuster talk. And he talked about how difficult it is. We talked about lowering post-fire recovery costs by doing our pre-fire planning ahead of time. And the more we can plan, the more it can reduce costs on this end. He said, knowing what FEMA will pay for and what they won't, he gave one example. He said, don't even bother trying to submit your OT for a force account. FEMA won't cover it. They will cover contractors. Very easy, very straightforward. Recommended getting everything standardized, which this district does a great job of. Everything is up to certain codes. And he said that kind of work is anything that takes the subjectivity out of it, FEMA loves. So at any rate, more on that, but boy, did we hear from people that went through it. And it was just an astonishing. I would encourage everybody who can take the time to go to something like that. It was really beneficial. So did you have anything to add or?
No, I think you did a pretty good job. I mean, it was just a fantastic learning experience, and we were able to bring back some really good tips for staff, and I know they're probably already working on some of them. So.
Okay, well with that, then is there anything else anybody would like to add? I would like to take a 7-minute recess if not, and we'll go into closed session. Okay,
I'd like to request a 15-minute recess versus 7 minutes, so we have time to eat something.
do you like a 15-minute recess?
Yes, please.
Is that what you're saying? That sounds fine, okay?
President Balin, if we're gonna go directly into closed session, we'll read it now and take the recess.
Okay, that sounds great.
Okay?
Okay,
Okay, so closed session, A, public employee performance evaluation pursuant to government code section 54957, position general manager, and then we'll take our 15-minute recess.
okay, thank you, Melissa.
11:45, see you back.
How much?
11:45. Yeah, 11.
15, might as well take a jog around.
Might need a shower though, it's a little warm. Yes, we are going to stay there. Okay, okay. Since
Okay, all right. I'd like to move us back into open session and report that we have no reportable action at this time from closed session. So with that, I will adjourn the meeting at 12:00.